Good morning everybody. Happy Sunday, Buen día, amigos. Feliz domingo. Bueno, aquí en Miami la temperatura está buena. Vamos a empezar diciendo que la temperatura está muy buena, está rica la temperatura, hay fresquito, no hay calor, no hay frío, hay fresquito. Se siente como si tuviera, no sé, 70, 72. No he chequeado la temperatura, pero hay fresco. Anoche la temperatura bajó, mucho fresquito. Yeah, last night the temperature dropped here in Miami. Not a lot, but high 60s, I guess. And now this morning feels, it's midday now, right? It's midday, so it's almost afternoon already, or it's afternoon. And it feels like about 70, maybe 72, 74. A little nice little breeze. So finally, since I'm always outdoors, I feel the relief of the nice weather. I love it. For me, anywhere between 60 and 75, it's ideal. I love it when it's cool. I don't like that 88, 90, 95, especially with humidity weather that we get down here. So when it's cool, when it drops 75 to 60, maybe even 55, I enjoy it. I don't really wear jackets unless it gets in the 40s or lower 30s. So I don't know. Got a little bit of that cold in me. But I'm warm-hearted. I'm not a cold-hearted person. Tengo un corazón caliente, no tengo un corazón frío, pero me gusta el frío, me da energía. It's the energy with the energy. I'm going to talk a little bit about what's going on down here. Talking about heating up. The Miami Hurricanes football team is heating up at the right time. Might be a little too late, but it's good for Manny Diaz. They've won 2 straight games over pretty good teams. Top 20 teams. They beat North Carolina State when they were ranked 18th. Now they beat Pittsburgh when they were ranked 17th. Now, of course, North Carolina State dropped after the loss to Miami, and Pittsburgh will drop after the loss to Miami yesterday. But nevertheless, the 2 teams were playing really well, good, solid, excellent football when Miami beat them. So got to give that big credit to Manny Diaz and the coaching staff and all the players. Players really performing a lot better than they have all year. And one game was at home, un juego fue en la casa, y el otro juego fue afuera. So one game was at home and one game was on the road. Yesterday they were at Pittsburgh. Well, I should say they were at Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, probably since Thursday or Friday. The game was held yesterday. Estuvieron en Pittsburgh en el juego de ayer. Me imagino que llegaron el juego el viernes, ¿no? Que normalmente llegan un día o 2 días antes, pero el juego fue ayer y ganaron. Hay que felicitarlos. Especialmente los jugadores que han pasado mucho. Con toda honestidad, fácilmente en vez de estar 4-4 pudieran estar 6-2. Porque el kick que perdieron con Virginia, eso fue es como decir qué suerte tiene Virginia. Virginia este año, la Universidad de Virginia, 2 juegos que han ganado, porque el kicker opuesto del equipo opuesto ha fallado pateadas que normalmente meten, que le ha dado al poste, a uno de los postes, y la bola no ha entrado. Eso ocurre, pero no es tan frecuente. Quizás de cada 1000 pateadas le pasa 1 o 2 veces. Entonces han tenido mucha suerte. No sé si al final de la temporada, quizás en los juegos que le queda a Virginia, le pase lo mismo a ellos. No creo que la Universidad de Virginia se quede por arriba de Miami, a pesar de que los 2 equipos tienen 2 juegos perdidos. Creo que Virginia va a perder contra Pittsburgh. So, si Miami gana el resto de los 4 juegos en el ACC, con 2 derrotas, aunque hayan perdido con Virginia, Virginia sí tiene 3, ellos lo sobrepasan. Ahora, el problema que tienen es que Pittsburgh, que los Huracanes le ganaron, tienen un juego perdido. Solamente necesitan perder 1 más. Si quedan empatados con 2 juegos perdidos con los Huracanes se llevan la conferencia, la división de la conferencia, por haber ganado juegos. Entonces necesitan que Pittsburgh pierda, preferiblemente contra North Carolina, que le ganó a Miami un juego, eso también que fue increíble. Los Huracanes iban a ganar el juego y El muchacho quarterback Van Dyke, que se ha hecho una estrella, el nuevo quarterback, el nuevo mariscal de campo de los Huracanes, tiró un pase que el recibidor estaba abierto, iban a anotar y ganar, y milagrosamente North Carolina bloqueó o taponeó la bola en la línea, que es una cosa que no es muy, pasa, pero no es tan común. Y después la bola estuvo en el aire y mucha gente la estuvieron tocando hasta que al fin alguien la interceptó de North Carolina y se le fue el juego ahí a Miami cuando iban a ganar. Pero North Carolina tiene más juegos perdidos, tienen 3 perdidos. Los Huracanes lo único que pueden hacer es controlar lo que ellos pueden hacer, que es ganar los últimos 4 juegos, que no son juegos tan difíciles, porque van a jugar ahora con Georgia Tech en casa, en el Hard Rock. Van a ser favoritos, tienen mucho mejor equipo que Georgia Tech, pero nosotros sabemos la historia de Miami, que a veces que pierden con equipos inferiores. Si ganan ese juego, hasta ahora le dan como un 80% de probabilidad que lo van a ganar. Después tienen que viajar a Tallahassee, a enfrentarse a los Florida State Seminoles. Ese juego es mucho más difícil, pero los Seminoles todavía tienen problemas. No están jugando tan mal, pero no están jugando tan bien. Los Huracanes están favoritos como por 55%, aproximadamente de 55 a 60% ganar esos juegos. Ese creo que es el juego más difícil que le queda, el de Florida State, en Florida State. Después la próxima semana, creo que es noviembre 20, si no me equivoco, regresan al Hard Rock y juegan con Virginia Tech. Fuera bueno que jugaran con Virginia de nuevo, a ver si le pudieran ganar, pero no es así la cosa. Virginia Tech no tiene un equipo malo, pero no tiene un equipo bueno, es mediocre. Y creo que aquí en Hard Rock Miami va a ganar ese juego. Y finalmente acaban la temporada con el equipo más malo en la ACC, que es Duke. Los Duke Blue Devils, aunque le han ganado a los Huracanes en otros años. Si Miami gana esos 4 juegos, acaban la temporada en 8-4. 8 victorias, 4 derrotas. Fácilmente pudiera haber sido una temporada de 10-2. Pero bueno, ¿qué se va a hacer? Perdieron juegos contra Virginia y North Carolina que deben haber ganado. Ahora, una cosa interesante, fuera del juego de Alabama, que no tuvieron ningún chance, yo diría que ese juego no hubo ningún chance de ganar por la diferencia de talento y la preparación. Manny Díaz ahí sí que no empezó la temporada bien preparado, y nosotros sabemos que Nick Saban, o debemos saber que Nick Saban es uno de los mejores coaches, managers, coaches, como le quieren decir en español, de la NFL. De la NFL no, del college, de los colegiales, ya lo estoy promoviendo la NFL. Pero el hombre es una eminencia como coach de college, de la universidad, y ha ganado como 7 títulos, si no me equivoco. Creo que ha ganado como 5 o 6 con Alabama, y uno con LSU. Uno con LSU, que pocos coaches han ganado campeonatos, y menos en 2 universidades diferentes. Ganó uno con LSU, y después tuvo coaching con los Miami Dolphins. Por eso que aquí mucha gente no son fanáticos de él, porque dicen que dejó a los Dolphins con problemas y no quiso mantenerse como coach profesional. Pero a nivel colegial el tipo es una eminencia, el señor es una eminencia. Regresó a college, a las universidades, y con Alabama 5 o 6 campeonatos más. Es increíble. Él estaba preparado, tiene el talento superior. Miami no tenía chance de ganar ese juego, pero el juego de Michigan State está rankeado en los medio 7. Estaban rankeados número 8 y le ganaron a Michigan, que está rankeado 6. Me imagino que Michigan State va a estar ahora o 6 o 5 en los rankings. Y Miami estaba perdiendo solamente por 3 puntos entrando el cuarto periodo, el fourth quarter, contra Michigan State, con la bola, caminando el field, perdiendo 17-14, y se desinflaron. Se lesionó el abridor, mariscal de campo, quarterback, de Eric King en ese momento. Empezaron a hacer de la suya de los errores de las bolas que se le caen a los receptores, a los receivers, los fumbles, es cuando dejan la bola en el piso y se la dan al otro equipo, los missed tackles, cuando no tumban a la gente, o sea, que no saben tumbarlos, tackle them. Y el juego se les fue fuera de control, pero muy fácilmente, si no hubieran tenido esos errores, podrían haber ganado ese juego. Realísticamente, aunque uno diga ese juego no lo podían haber ganado porque jugaron mal, fácilmente pudieran tener 6 victorias y 2 derrotas en rumbo a 10-2. Que al principio de la temporada yo dije que 10-2 era lo mínimo. Pensaba que posiblemente iban a ser 11-1 porque no pensé que iban a perder con Michigan State en casa. Me equivoqué, pero siempre le he dado mucho crédito a la universidad porque a pesar de que yo soy reportero de deportes, soy fanático de aquí de los equipos de Miami y me es difícil ser completamente imparcial. Pero conociendo la historia de Manny Díaz y conociendo la historia del equipo que no lo tienen listo muchas veces para jugar y falta de jugar siempre mejor juego, no depende del equipo. Si el equipo es un equipo bueno o un equipo malo, siempre dar el máximo. Eso es una cosa que a ellos les falta, pero en los últimos 2 juegos han jugado mucho mejor y pienso que si se mantienen enfocados tienen una oportunidad. Con un juego que pierda Pittsburgh y un juego que pierda Virginia, si los Huracanes no pierden de los 4 juegos que quedan ninguno, se llevan la división Coastal de la ACC, del ACC Conference, la conferencia de la ACC. If they take the conference, if they take the ACC division, the ACC Coastal division from the ACC Conference, then they will be playing an extra game in the championship, in the ACC championship, which right now it looks like the team to beat is Wake Forest. But who knows? North Carolina State might somehow pass them. It might be that would be kind of interesting. Another game. Although I'm kind of intrigued by facing Wake Forest. They have a great team, but I think their defense could be scored upon. So that will be interesting. Might be a high-scoring affair if somehow Miami is able to win the Coastal, and it looks right now like Wake Forest is going to be the winner from the Atlantic. And what happens is the Atlantic and the Coastals divisions of the ACC are the winners from each division would face off for the championship of the ACC. And then if you get that, then you're talking big boys. You're talking about playing in a major bowl, which that will be outstanding. But first is first. Win the last 4 games. Let the chips fall where they may. And who knows, you might luck out and get a chance to play in the ACC championship, which that would be awesome after having such a dismal year. Now, talking about Manny Diaz being in the hot seat, apparently the players love him. So, he might just have 1 more year left. He signed a 5-year contract, and this is his 3rd year. So he has, after this year, he has 2 more years unless he gets fired. When you fire somebody, the way it works, especially in professional, well, this is college, but it's semi-professional in the sense that the players now are getting money for, when they represent something, a product or something. So it's not completely like it used to be where they couldn't make any money. And the coaches, we know that they're, for all intents and purposes, they're professionals. They're coaching at a college level instead of professional level, but they're professionals and they're making millions and millions of dollars. So usually there's a buyout clause where if you fire the coach, even if he does terrible, even if he loses every single game, he's going to get paid. You have to buy him out. So a lot of times the universities, if they don't want to just give that money and then have to hire another coach and maybe buy out the contract of another coach from another school, so then you're talking about paying the coach that you just fired because you're not happy with, paying the university of the other coach that you want to get, and then a new contract. It's a lot of money. So I'm sure they prefer to have him around, even though he's not the best coach. But he is a very likable guy, and the players like him. They love him. In fact, they love him. They play for him. And they were celebrating the last 2 victories, especially last night. I think I saw him get doused in Gatorade or some kind of power drink bath, where they usually reserve that for championships or even winning a bowl game. So, the players are happy for him. They love him. And so I wish him the best. He's a great guy. I don't know if it's the best interest of the university to have him long term. But I would suggest for them to let him coach out the rest of the year, unless he gets blown out by one of these inferior teams where he just, gets destroyed, the team gets destroyed by an inferior team. Then you might have to make an immediate move. But I think it's better if they finish out the year, and then we'll see what happens in the off season. If they do win out the rest of the games, and they end up 8-4, even if they don't make the ACC championship game for the conference title, they're probably going to have a decent bowl. If they got to win a bowl game, I mean, they haven't won a bowl game I don't know how many years. I think they've lost like somewhere in the neighborhood of 7, 8, 9, maybe 10. I got to check up on that. I'll let you know later. Bowl games in a row, which is not necessarily a championship game, but it's a bowl. You know, you're winning the bowl. It could be the Orange Bowl, it could be the Gator Bowl, it could be the Citrus Bowl, it could be any bowl. It could be the Backyard Bowl, but it's still something that you're practicing about 2 or 3 weeks and sometimes even a month for, and the other team is gunning for you. In Miami, even though they're not what they used to be 20, 30 years ago, or even 35 years ago, where they were in their prime, they're still a name, And when other teams play them, they see the helmet with the U on the side, and that helmet with the U on the side represents 5 championships. A lot of great players in the NFL, a lot of Hall of Famers, a lot of great football, exciting football. Taking down. There was a time when people would say you're not number 1 unless you beat Miami. That's how much respect they had. They were either number 1 or number 2 for a lot of years in a row. I think it was 5 or 6 years in a row where they either ended up number 1 or number 2. I think there was a run of about somewhere in 6 or 7 years where I think they were in the top 5. It's incredible. I mean, small university, doesn't have the alumni like the big ones like Oklahoma, Nebraska, or Alabama, and they were putting up dominating numbers. They could have actually won 2 more national championships. One was the infamous game with Notre Dame where the refs forgot the down, forgot the distance. It was a fumble, and it wasn't a fumble. Pretty much Miami got ripped in that game. And then the one that we more recently, about 20 years ago, where Ohio State, the game was over, the fireworks were going, Miami had won the game, and a mysterious flag came out of nowhere, saying that it was a penalty on the cornerback of Miami, giving Ohio State another chance to win the game. Which we found out later, the referee was an alumni from Ohio State and lived close to the stadium, and somehow he got in the game. And that's just the things that happen that make you scratch your head. But I mean, they even had a rule where they call it the Miami rule, where you couldn't celebrate when you scored a touchdown or something. And you got to bear in mind that these are kids. They might be big. Some of them might be 350 pounds, 320, 330. Even the smaller ones that are 250, 260, they're huge. The average height is probably 6'3", 6'4". They can bench press somewhere in the neighborhood of 350 to 400 pounds. Some of them well over 500 pounds. So you might look at them and think, oh, they're huge men, but they're young guys, And take into consideration that some of them are young as 18, and I guess the older ones are 23 or 24. They've been in the program with red shirt maybe 4 or 5 years, and now with the COVID, they got an extra year. Some of them might be as old as 24, but that's the exception. I would think the average is somewhere around 20, 21. The average age of the players, probably around 20 when you take in the younger ones and the older ones. They're kids, and so as long as the celebration doesn't get out of hand, where just the cursing goes crazy and the sexual signs and the lascivious behavior. Sometimes when they score a touchdown, that you think, well, what is this? They're doing some kind of dirty dancing or something, or some kind of booty grind. Other than that, I mean, to spike a ball, to do a little dance, a little celebration, kind of excessive when you penalize the players for that. And, it's part of the game. It's fun, When we were doing it to the other teams because we were winning, they got upset. But now they seem to do it to us all the times when we don't win as much. And it is what it is. But again, I think that the Hurricanes have a good shot of going 8-4. And if they do win the bowl game, 9 victories is not what I expected. But it's a lot better than it looked when they were in 2-4, which I myself thought they might only win 1 or 2 more games and end up winning 3 or 4 games the whole year, because that's how bad it looked. So I got to give credit to Manny Diaz, even though I'm not his biggest fan as a coach. I do like him as a person. I do like the energy he brings, and you can tell he really loves the university, and the players love him. And also recruiting-wise, they're not going to have a big recruiting class because they don't have as many scholarships available But they do have about 8 solid players. Normally, the recruiting class goes between 22 and 25 players. I don't think Miami's going to reach that number for sure. Who knows? They might top out at 11, 12, 13 players, so they're not going to be ranked as high, the players coming in from high school, because they don't have the volume. But they are getting quality. And there's always a transfer portal. Then Manny Diaz is the champion of the transfer portal. So it gets players from other schools. Now, a lot of people say another man's trash is another man's treasure, right? So the other teams might not want these players or not use them to their full ability, and they come to another program and they're stars. But Miami has done it before. Look at Derek King. I mean, he was a superstar last year for the Canes. And I think it was the main reason why they were 8-3, where they improved from 6-7 the year before, and they could have very easily been 9-2 if he wouldn't have gotten hurt in that bowl game, which they were dominating until he got hurt. And what can I say? This year, Charles Rambo, the ex-wide receiver from Oklahoma, is the best offensive player in the team. I mean, he's on pace to go over 1,000 yards. I don't know when's the last time a Miami receiver went over 1,000 yards. Might be 10 years or so. There haven't been that many. He could actually challenge for the records for most yards receiving for the University of Miami. So you got to give him credit. That was a transfer. Miami's had some great transfers before, and I'm sure that we'll have him again. He's a champion. Manny Diaz is a champion of the transfer portal. So we'll see what happens. I think all in all, the year hasn't been completely satisfactory, but it's turning out good at the end. A lot better than the Dolphins. I mean, the Dolphins, I don't even watch their games. I mean, I do watch them, but I don't root for them anymore. I just I watch them as a reporter, and somebody has to report on these games. But I don't really expect them to win. And if they win, I'm not going to get too excited, because I know the Dolphins are a debacle. I don't know. I mean, I like another coach that I like, Brian Flores. I think he's had better results than Manny Diaz, because he took a team that was he basically traded away all his talent first year in 2019. And he was playing with players that nobody wanted, projects, people that were out of football, and people that didn't seem to belong in the NFL. And somehow he got 5 victories when he could have easily just won 1 or 2 games. Then the following year, last year, with a mixture of some of those players and some, I guess, some smart free agent signings and drafts, players in the draft, they won 10. So they doubled the victory total. But this year's a step backwards. Now, he has to take some of the blame because he's the head coach. But I think more of the blame falls on Chris Greer, the general manager, because he has not. If he's the one that's totally responsible for the draft, I mean, I know when Don Shula was around, he had the final say in what players will be drafted. But if Chris Greer actually has more of a voice than Brian Flores, then he's got to take the hit, because Miami's had a lot of first-round picks. I mean, they've had years where, I mean, I think it was this past year, or the year before, the year before, 2020, where he had three number 1 picks, including Tua at number 5. Now, Tua is not as bad as people make him out to be, but he's not an all-pro quarterback. Top 5, especially when you had Justin Herbert right behind him as being the best young up-and-coming quarterback, and Miami could have very easily had him. He was taken at number 6. Miami did not take him. They preferred Tua, and Tua's injury prone. He's not as strong. He's not as big. He doesn't have the speed to run. He doesn't have the arm that Justin Herbert has. Justin Herbert's a lot better athlete, bigger, stronger, faster, better arm, and has already shown what he could do at the pro level. He's not injury prone like Tua is. So, somebody's got to take the hit for that. And they also drafted a couple other players, including a cornerback that was supposed to be it was supposed to be a pearl in the rough, or a jewel in the rough. And the guy has played in only 1 game, a lot of times been inactive. The most he does is play special teams. I mean, he's a cornerback that doesn't see the field. He doesn't cover anybody. So, that is an awful pick. And then they got a lineman that also was supposed to be a dominating lineman, a great offensive tackle for the next 10 to 12 years. And the guy, he doesn't have a position. He can't play tackle because he's like a turnstile. People go right by him. He can't play guard because he doesn't have the quickness or whatever. He can't play here. He can't play there. So, I mean, Somebody has to be responsible for that. And now, finally, we don't know what's going to happen with Deshaun Watson. Apparently, the Dolphins want him badly, but Flores is saying that Tua is the man. And no matter what would happen, unless barring an injury, you hear me correctly. I mean, hear me carefully. I'm basically trying to quote him almost word for word. Barring an injury, that means unless Tua gets injured, this is what he said. He's my starting quarterback for the rest of the year. So unless Tua gets injured or they fake that he has an injury or something, he's going to play the rest of the year. So that means no matter what happens, even if they trade for Deshaun Watson. Now, apparently, the owner wants Deshaun Watson badly. I don't blame him. The guy is probably top 4, top 5 quarterbacks right now with his talent and the numbers he put last year. I mean, they were phenomenal. He threw for almost 5,000 yards, almost Marino-like. Threw well over 30 touchdowns. I don't know how many he ran for, but he's also a mobile quarterback that can get you yards. And it's a threat to run near the goal line. And very few interceptions, 6 or 7. So, he's a guy that's accurate, has a gun, can put the ball anywhere, can throw deep, can open up the game, can run the ball. But the problem is he has 22 either sexual complaints or allegations or actually filings with police, and we don't know if there's all of them are bogus or part of them are bogus. We don't know. So we have to wait and see what happens, how it gets resolved, if it gets resolved, how it gets resolved. Apparently, the snag on the trade is that